This is Pace Yourself to Health podcast.
Welcome to Pace Yourself to Health. I'm your host, Ruth King. I'm here with John Pace, who is the brains, the founder, and the motivation behind Pace Yourself to Health. So, John, it's great to start this podcast series with you.
It is an honor and pleasure to be here. I'm so excited to share some great content and just some life-changing principles that can really help benefit people from all around the world.
Yeah, that's really kind of cool. And so what I'd like to do in this first session is get your backstory, how you got here. Now, it's, audio, so we don't get to see that lovely picture of you with your belly out.
Oh, boy. Yeah.
Which I have seen.
Yes, indeed. Wow, what an extraordinary journey. I would say that, I guess going back, I've probably been in the health and wellness space for about 40 years. My first job was actually at a health food store. And I just, at a very young age, intuitively just knew that there was some essence to this whole thing about health and well-being and the way our body's designed to be optimized, to live its best, to live its fullest in terms of immunity, vitality. And so my whole life I've been a student of health and well-being. I read countless books. That was one of the reasons I got the job at the health food store, because they had a book library of all these extraordinary books. And I started with Dr. Andrew Weil, who is considered the grandfather of medical wellness, Harvard graduate and extraordinary physician and human being. And I think he teaches the whole curriculum at either University of Arizona, a whole integrative medicine program. But started back with Dr. Andrew Weil and have read countless books in between. And my wife is a medical doctor and chief medical officer for a company. But I think that coming from an Italian family, obviously Italians love to eat, mangia, everything is eating.
Spaghetti, pasta.
Right, spaghetti, pasta, pastries.
Yeah.
And so I couldn't go over any of my Italian relatives' houses without being forced to eat. It's offensive if you don't eat their food. So coming from an Italian family, and I guess a family that genetically is predisposed to carrying extra weight. And so throughout my life, thankfully, I was an athlete. So most of my life, I've been in supreme shape and just very focused on health and well-being. But throughout the course of, I'm now 58 years young, I say, instead of old. And within about the last 5 years ago, I had went through a pretty painful divorce after being married for 30 years, gained 75 pounds.
So you let yourself go?
Completely let myself go. I was up on our farm by myself for several months, kind of having a little pity party for myself, wondering where my life would go from there. I'd never imagined I'd be a divorced man at 55 years old or so. And so it really was a hard thing, because having 2 children with the same woman and a whole lifetime of history, it was a hard thing to get over. So food, as for many of us, became a pacifier. It was my comfort.
It was your comfort zone. It was something you did to feel better.
Correct.
And something like that. And so the first presentation I ever saw you do, we had been knowing each other before that, was you put the picture of you on the screen. Yeah, I know you're grimacing now,
brutal.
But, it's like what you used to look like. And it's like, it's John with a big pot belly. I don't know any other way to describe it. I'm sorry, but that's what it was.
As hard as it is, I show it to every patient because I want them to know that they have somebody that can relate to them. And I have to say, this kind of dawned on me one day, and this is what kind of became the turning point after looking myself in the mirror and being so disgusted. I kind of got to the point where I'd get out of the shower and not even look in the mirror because I was so disgusted. And then I went to the gym one day, and I picked up a 75-pound dumbbell, and I held on to it for about a minute and realized that 24/7, 365 days a year, I'm carrying this dead weight around. And then I started looking at the implications and the medical complications that occur from carrying around that kind of weight every single second of every day. And so it just hit me like a ton of bricks, and it just forced me forward to say, this is not who I am. This is not who I was created to be. And I certainly can't help anybody else if I can't help myself first.
Yeah, absolutely. It was like your wake-up call. It was your wake-up point. It was the decision that said, okay, I'm going to not deal with this anymore. I don't like myself. I don't like what I look like. I'm going to go back to what I really should be.
Absolutely. And emotionally, we think of just the physical aspects of being overweight or, really, let's just call a spade a spade. This is not about weight.
No.
This is about being over fat. We look at all these things, weight loss this and weight loss. It's not weight loss. Weight is not the issue. Fat is the issue.
Mental is the issue.
Oh, well, that's the whole other side of it.
No, it's mental.
The psychological part of it.
It's mental.
Self-esteem, your self-image.
Yeah.
I mean, I was a different human being. At first, I was a walking time bomb. My cholesterol was almost 300. My blood pressure was off the charts. I mean, and I'm 55 years old. So I'm looking at it going, wait a second, I'm a walking time bomb. I could drop dead at any second. I have a history of heart disease and cancer in my family. Father died of heart disease. Grandfather died of heart disease. Grandmother died of cancer. Younger brother died of cancer. So I'm just thinking.
The message is there, John.
Yeah. I mean, here I am literally knowing what to do, but not doing what I knew. And I just got to the point where I was so disgusted. And then I realized that, I've always been mindful of living a purpose-driven life. And I thought, surely I can't help anybody if I cannot help myself first. And so I made that decision that day to transform the rest of my life. And I look at that picture now and I can confidently say with absolute certainty, I will never, ever, ever again be that human being because I was living a different human experience, whole different level of perception of myself, my value, my self-esteem, my self-image, and then the physical side of carrying around that weight and being exhausted all the time.
Yeah, I get it. I
and
totally
feeling
get it.
Embarrassed going, you're pathetic. I mean, you know better. And, this is not who you are. And why would we want to live life anything less than the fullest?
Yeah, absolutely. All right. So when we get back from break, we're going to talk about a little bit more of transformation, and I'll give you a little bit of, how you and I met and some of the things that have happened in my life since we got
Awesome.
together.
Can't wait.
All right. Thanks for listening to Pace Yourself to Health. We'll be right back.
It feels like cheating. Normally, I spend hours in the gym and maybe I'll see a little bit of difference in a month or two. With this one treatment, which is FDA approved, I spend only 15 minutes and lost 2 3/4 inches around my waist. You could get similar results with this painless, easy way to lose fat. Just ask Ruth King, host of the Contractor Sense podcast and a proud endorser of Pace Yourself to Health. Want to find out more? Just call Pace Yourself to Health at 888-599-7223. That's 888-599-7223.
Thanks for listening to Pace Yourself to Health. We're back, and I'm speaking with John Pace, who is the founder, visionary, and the brains behind Pace Yourself to Health. And we started talking about your story and the fact that you had a pot belly, just like, like so many other people. And you just decided one day that's not you. And I think any change that you do has to be mental first before it's ever physical. Because if you just go, I want to lose weight or something else like that, it just doesn't work. You have to have the mental reason why behind it.
You just brought up the absolute bottom line foundational truth to this whole journey. If you do not decide and make your mind up and have that mental toughness, that level of commitment, not with fanaticism or perfectionism, but just consistency. But you have to make your mind up. And the word decision, from the Latin root, incision, is to cut off all other options. Mm-hmm. When you make a decision, you cut off all other options, that there is no other option. This has to be done. This must be done. And we have to approach it like our life depends upon it, because it does.
It does. It absolutely
actually
does.
does.
I've told you my story a little bit. And, I decided when I was 55 years old, I put together a 45-year goal to be working when I'm 100. And
Right
along
on.
the way, I decided, number one, I better be able to be physically competent, to be mentally aware, acute, and everything else along those lines to be able to do it. And then I met you, and you gave me Dr. Joel Fuhrman's book, which was Super Immunity. And it scared the crap out of me, actually. And that's what the change was physically in terms of eating a very different diet. And I have to be, totally frank with you. The first time I did it, and I thought I was going to be hungry, and I've never been hungry.
That's awesome. Well, you know why? Because your body is receiving nutrients that a lot of the times on the standard American diet, break that down into an acronym.
Yeah.
SAD. It is as sad as it gets. We're eating living, Well, it's the difference between eating living, whole plant-based foods that have all these phytonutrients, phytochemicals, antioxidants versus dead processed manufactured food. I mean, we have a living body. Why would we eat dead stuff? So it's just, it doesn't make any sense at all. But when you get it, you get it and you run with it. And it's life-changing.
Well, it's interesting because when you said, at the very first opening to Pace Yourself to Health up at Medici, you were really talking about you don't have to do this all at once, do it 5%, then do it 10%. All right, I'm still not 100%, and I may never be 100%. I still like eating fish.
Right on.
And every once in a while, I still have meat, which I did last Thursday because I was out of town. I didn't have a choice. That's what they had for dinner. It wasn't a choose off the menu thing. It was a catered dinner, and this is what you got, and it was actually pretty good from that perspective because they cooked it very, very well. But the reality of the situation is until you mentally, at least what I'm finding is until you mentally make the decision that you're going to do this, anything you do, anything I do, anything you do listening to this podcast is not going to do any good. It really and truly isn't.
Sure.
During this podcast, we're going to give you some really great things that you can do that are easy to do, some motivational things that you can do, and the science behind it. But the reality is if your mindset's not there, don't waste your time.
That's the bottom line. You have to be fit in the mind first. You have to be committed from a mental perspective. And to your point, as far as thinking you'd be hungry, when you start eating living, whole, plant-based foods, your body is being nourished. It's being fortified. We're walking around overeating dead processed foods, and we're starving ourselves of nutrients because they don't exist in those foods. So on the contrary, people that eat excessive amounts of dead processed foods are hungry all the time because they're not getting the nutrients that the body is in desperate need of.
Yeah, and the thing that was really interesting is because sometimes I don't get to eat because I'm really, really busy, but I don't get, this, I got to eat. I'm just, out of type thing where I have to eat. So, it's been a very interesting transformational experience for me. And I know we're going to go through a whole lot of different things that allow, just start things to think about.
Yes.
And from the perspective of going places that you've not been and doing the things that, and reality is you got to make that decision first.
Absolutely.
And I don't know what you think about this, but when a lot of times I tell people that I'm going to be working productively when I'm 100, they go, why? And it's like, it surprised me at first. It really and truly did surprise me, but some people just don't want to live that long. You got to have a reason to live.
Well, therein lies the purpose-driven life.
Yeah.
If you have a purpose and a life of significance, and to me, that can't be any other thing, from my perspective, than helping others, because this is all beyond ourselves. And when we have that kind of sense of purpose and to help others to live better, live longer, boy, it just ignites you and it gives you a reason to live, because the implications of this are so far-reaching and far beyond the here and now. Like, we're talking about changing history as we will come to know it. Because guess what? If you live an extra 5 years than your current trajectory would have been on if you didn't make those changes, if you live an additional 5 years on planet Earth with the wonderful knowledge and experience and skills that only Ruth King has, that only you can contribute to this world, you've changed history by cutting your life short or extending it and influencing so many more people for the good to help them. That gets exciting when you start thinking about it, because when Ruth King has that change and those things occur in her life and her sphere of influence, imagine all the people that you touch that are going to have that same occurrence and continue to have that ripple effect, which gets really exciting.
Absolutely. So let's talk a little bit. We have only a few minutes left in this session. Let's talk about what we're going to be doing on this podcast.
Yes.
Specifically, where are we going?
I think the best way to start, we've taken the word fundamental and we've broken that down into fun, mental. We got to start with the mental aspect first. It begins with the mental certainty and toughness and a plan. And then we want to make it as fun as we can. Most people, when you even say the word exercise, they grimace.
Yeah.
Or, let's make exercise fun. Let's change our perspective, change the framing around that. Let's make eating well fun. Everything we do should be enjoyable. That's what it's supposed to be. And we can do that if we just kind of, put the effort in.
What's the duh? I know the fun and
The
the mental.
duh is like, come on, let's get this finally. I mean, why has it taken a global pandemic to get people aware of the significance of their health and well-being?
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
immune system, the thing that frustrates me more than anything right now, we're hearing everything about social distancing, wearing masks, wash your hands. What about our immune system?
Yeah, eat properly and have a killer immune system. That's
Holy
really where it
mackerel.
is.
What matters most is the host. The pathogen is always secondary. We've been dealing with pathogens since the beginning of time.
I know.
But the way our bodies were masterfully designed was to defend against those. But we have to position ourselves to defend.
Absolutely.
And we're not doing it. So that's what we're on a mission to do. We're going to break that down, and we're going to use the KISS principle. We're going to keep it really simple.
Okay. So I'm looking forward to next time and mental.
I can't wait.
Thanks, John.
Thank you so much.
And thanks to all of you for listening to Pace Yourself to Health. I'm your host, Ruth King. We will see you next time.